Eddie Brock senses Null's arrival and warns the Avengers to implement their battle plans. After returning to the penthouse where his son Dylan is sleeping, Eddie feels guilt over the dark legacy he's passed to him. Dylan wakes up and tells Eddie he also senses Knull. Eddie takes Dylan to a bunker provided by Spider-Man, refusing Dylan's offer to help in the fight. Before leaving, Eddie tells Dylan he loves him and promises to return safely. At Avengers Mountain, Captain America leads a team with Iron Man, She-Hulk, and Captain Marvel as they monitor space for Null's horde. Iron Man detonates a minefield of Kree and Skrull warships but only destroys a small fraction of the symbiote dragons. As the dragons descend upon Manhattan, Captain America orders the Avengers and the Fantastic Four to move out. Meanwhile, Eddie feels the dragon's pain through Venom and rushes to the next phase of the plan. Knull arrives on Earth by controlling symbiote-possessed Celestials. The Sentry attacks Knull, attempting to tear him apart, but Knull easily overpowers him, ripping the Sentry in half and absorbing the Void. Knull traps Earth's heroes in a living abyss, covering the planet in a symbiote Dyson sphere. As Knull captures Venom, Eddie pleads with him to spare Dylan, but Knull reveals that Dylan, not Eddie, is his true target. He rips the Venom symbiote from Eddie and sends him plummeting towards the symbiote-covered streets below. Eddie crashes into a car, leaving him mangled and barely alive. Spider-Man rushes to him, apologizing for not being able to catch him because of the symbiote dragons. Eddie, barely conscious, tells Peter to look after Dylan. Spider-Man tries to save Eddie, but his spider sense warns him of danger. He sees that several heroes, including Storm, Cyclops, She-Hulk, Thing, Captain America, and Ms. Marvel, have been possessed by symbiotes. Human Torch arrives, telling Spider-Man to get Eddie to safety. Despite knowing fire won't work, Johnny promises to use his Nova Blast to hold off their possessed friends, aware it will likely result in his own possession. He sacrifices himself in a massive explosion, allowing Spider-Man to escape with Eddie. At the Fantastic Four's lab, Eddie is comatose and hooked up to life support. Spider-Man pleads with Valkyrie to use her divine powers to heal Eddie, but she tells him she can only sense how close someone is to death. Reed Richards, the Black Panther, and other heroes discuss the gravity of the situation. While Blade argues with Professor X and Magneto about Krakow's withdrawal from the global fight, Iron Man reveals a risky plan. They need a symbiote dragon to save Eddie and tap into Null's hive mind, potentially stopping Null. Iron Man volunteers to obtain one, knowing it's a dangerous mission. Iron Man dives into the mouth of a symbiote dragon and injects it with Extremis. The dragon fights back, infecting Tony with living abyss and causing him to lose control, with Null's symbols appearing on his armor. Tony manages to return to the Fantastic Four's lab, now corrupted by the symbiote. He pours the symbiote onto Eddie's body to revive him. Dylan tries to warn them, sensing that the reprogramming failed. The symbiote attacks Eddie, and Dylan, using his powers, blasts the symbiote off. Reed Richards celebrates Dylan's powers as a potential key to defeating Knull, but the moment is cut short when Eddie's heart flatlines and he dies. As the Silver Surfer senses the universe's light fading, he detects Dylan Brock's grief over his father's death. At the Fantastic Four's base, Reed Richards deciphers a drive revealing that Dylan's powers come from the God of Light. Despite Spider-Man's offer to let Dylan sit out, Dylan, with blackened eyes and red spirals, insists he needs to fight. On the battlefield, Dylan effortlessly strips the symbiote from Captain America. Null, recognizing Dylan's power, tries to grab him, but Thor arrives, joining Dylan in freeing the symbiote-infected heroes. Null confronts Thor, boasting of his power. Thor, unimpressed, attacks with Mjolnir, but Null counters by slamming him to the ground. Dylan tries to assist, but Null traps him in living abyss, threatening to make Dylan watch his allies fall. Thor, however, manages to break free and severely injures Null by ripping off his lower jaw. Enraged, Null activates to symbiote-possessed Celestials. Before Thor can fight them, Null stabs him with the Necrosword. As Null commands the Celestials to lay waste to the city, Iron Man devises a plan to take control of one of them using a symbiote dragon. Null, meanwhile, walks toward Dylan, declaring himself as the boy's only remaining family. Thor, gravely injured, sends his ravens, Hugin and Moonin, to find the Silver Surfer. The Surfer, sensing the urgency, speeds towards Earth, ready to face Null, accompanied by the Cosmic Ravens. Trapped in a cocoon of symbiotes, Dylan Brock hears Null's voice, who reveals Dylan was created by rebellious symbiotes to kill him. Null offers to make Dylan his heir, threatening Earth's destruction if he refuses. As Dylan resists, he connects to Null's hive mind, freeing heroes like Cyclops, Thor, the Human Torch, and the Invisible Woman, who were captured by symbiotes. Doctor Strange regains his Asgardian staff with the help of a telepath. He leads Cyclops, the Human Torch, and the Invisible Woman in a coordinated strike. Cyclops unleashes an unrestrained optic blast. The Invisible Woman charges a massive force field wave. Together with Storm, Thor, and Namor, who create a devastating lightning-charged tsunami, they corral the symbiotes in Manhattan and weaken Null. Jean Grey telepathically invades Null's memories, searching for a weakness, and learns that Null is not the primordial darkness itself, but has an ancient opposite, an entity known as the God of Light. She discovers that this being has always opposed Null, bonding with warriors to fight him, but is now trapped outside Earth's symbiote barrier. Overwhelmed by the revelation, Jean Grey collapses after relaying the information. Arriving in Earth's orbit, the Silver Surfer with Hugin and Moonin pierces through Null's barrier, allowing the God of Light to enter. Revealed as the Enigma Force, it seeks a new host. Sensing that it does not want him, the Silver Surfer separates from the Enigma Force, which then bonds with Eddie Brock's corpse, resurrecting him as its chosen avatar to oppose Null. Emerging from the sun, Eddie hears the God of Light telling him that the voices he hears are the symbiotes celebrating their freedom. Meanwhile, the symbiote barrier around Earth dissolves, allowing sunlight to return. Blade and other heroes defeat the remaining vampires. Thor and the Silver Surfer reclaim their weapons, acknowledging that life may never return to normal after the battle. As Eddie lands, Spider-Man asks if Null is truly dead, but Eddie warns that the fight isn't over yet, noticing Dylan in distress.